So hello, my name is Rhianna and I currently live in Berlin and work as an English teacher. I work as a freelance English teacher here, so I have a few different teaching jobs. One of the teaching jobs I have is as an English language instructor for adults, and I teach them business English. Another teaching job I have is I teach English to children, and I sometimes tutor them, sometimes practice conversation with them, and just help them get more comfortable using the English language. And then another job I have is I work as a development assistant for an English language teaching company. So I work with the learning materials that they use, and I often review the learning materials and help with the learning materials. And so those are the three jobs I do at the moment, and I do them all from home. I do them all online, which I do really enjoy because I have the comforts of home still, and I can really theoretically do the job from anywhere as long as I have a Wi-Fi connection. And yeah, so I thought I'd take you through what a day in the life is like teaching English in Berlin and teaching English online. So in the morning, I teach business English to adults from 8:30 until 12. An example of a unit we did yesterday was on how to stay informed. So at the beginning of the lesson, we talked about different news outlets we use in order to stay informed. We also looked at vocabulary people might use in relation to talking about the news, and we practice using that vocabulary ourselves. And there's always a grammar point in every unit. And so the grammar point yesterday was the present perfect with for, since, just, already, and yet. So we practice making sentences such as, I have been learning English since 2020 and I have been learning English for 2 years. And then at the end of every lesson, we always do a performance type activity where we use the language and grammar we have learned in a more real world setting, which is often quite nice because they get to then see how they might implement that language in the real world. And teaching adults is quite new to me. I only started about 2 months ago. Prior to that, I only taught children. And I really quite enjoy teaching adults. At first, it was a bit daunting because I was very used to people older than me being the teacher and me being the student. And so it was quite strange because those roles were reversed. But now I've got more comfortable and confident in the classroom. And what I really like about teaching adults is they're really determined to learn. You get children too that are really determined to learn, but sometimes it can be a bit harder to get children to be motivated. But the adults I teach are usually very motivated because they themselves have signed up for the course. And in my lessons, I really try to make sure the students are talking most of the time, because I think that is the best way to get more comfortable and confident using a language, just to speak as much as possible. And yeah, I'm sure I'll get a lot better at teaching adults the more I do it. I feel myself improving all the time. I think the thing I struggle with the most is giving corrections, because often when a student is wrong, they'll want to know why they're wrong, but sometimes they're wrong because they used the wrong grammar, but the grammar that they should have used is actually quite complex and is going to take quite a long time to teach. So sometimes that can be a bit difficult, but I really enjoy teaching adults. And so then after lunch, I usually have a few hours of free time, and I usually fill this with something creative that I'm working on. So I really love writing, so I might spend that time working on the novel I'm working on or the play that I'm working on. I might spend that time playing the piano because I also love playing the piano. I might spend that time doing YouTube. And so yeah, I really enjoy this time because it really helps me feel happier when I have time to be creative. And then, I don't have this every day, but I do some development assistant work. So if I have presentations and learning materials that need to be reviewed, I'll review those presentations and learning materials, which sometimes can take quite a short time because there's not a lot of feedback and edits I need to make, but sometimes it can take a longer time if there is more work that I need to do on the learning materials. So for example, yesterday I did that for a couple of hours before I continued teaching. Then I will usually teach children in the late afternoon/evening. Ideally, my schedule would be that I continue teaching after lunch, and that's when I taught the children. And then after that, I would do my development assistant tasks and my creative projects, because it would be nice to have all my teaching finished by, say, 2-3 o'clock. But I tutor children, and usually they finish school at maybe 3, and so they usually want their English lessons to be late afternoon and evening. So that's kind of the way my schedule has to be. So for example, yesterday I taught English from 5 o'clock until 7 o'clock. So I had 2 lessons. Both were with children who were about 11, 12 years old. And in one lesson we did some tutoring work. So we looked at should and shouldn't. And in another lesson we did more conversational style work. So we talked about a trip to London, and we answered questions like, what would you do in London? Who would you go to London with? Where would you stay in London? And we created an itinerary for a holiday in London, which was quite fun. And then that is the end of the day. And some days are busier than others. I tend to have my busiest days at the beginning of the week because that's the way I prefer. And I think overall I'm really enjoying my job at the moment. I think like any job there are advantages and disadvantages. Some advantages are that I can do it from home and I can do the job from anywhere. Some disadvantages are that if the Wi-Fi is not working, it's very stressful because I don't want to leave the children without a teacher. I don't want to leave the adults without a teacher. It's particularly annoying when I'm in the middle of explaining something and then the Wi-Fi goes off. That's only happened a couple of times, thankfully, and I have data which I can use to rectify it, but it's just quite stressful when it occurs. And another thing, which isn't really a disadvantage, but more of an observation, it often feels quite strange that I meet all these people and I just do it from home. It's very cool because technology is amazing, but it also feels a little dystopian sometimes. Sometimes I do feel like it would be nice to see people in the flesh and in actuality, so it feels less like they're just like living inside my computer. But it is very cool that technology allows me to teach so many lessons from my bedroom. And so yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it, and I think it will be nice to look back on in the future, maybe when I have a different job or just a different teaching job. I don't know if I will stay in teaching forever. Who knows what the future holds. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye.